There's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
People from Puerto Rico got up a wake-up call after a Trump supporter called Puerto Rico a garbage of floating island, and then they reacted instantly. Welcome back to another episode. My name is Judy.
There's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
We're not laughing. 6 million Puerto Ricans in the U.S., the second largest population of Latinos in the U.S., are not laughing. Mexicanos, Colombianos, Hondureños, Salvadoreños, and every nationality represented here from every Latin American country are not laughing. In fact, all 65 million Latinos living in the U.S. don't think it's funny what was said last night at the Trump rally. And let's make one thing clear. His campaign began in 2016, declaring war against all Latinos by calling all Latinos rapists and murderers. And suddenly, every racist person in America found their leader. They no longer had to hide behind the keyboard. Now they have a voice, and they can say what they really think of all Latinos. And this leader gave them a voice like he did last night at Madison Square Garden. We're not garbage, rapists, murderers. We're teachers, doctors, attorneys, journalists, and yes, farm workers. We are generations of sweat and tears that has made the U.S. what the country is today. Our presence is everywhere. Schools, hospitals, courts, restaurants, hotels. And you would not be eating that plate of food without a Latino first pick those fruits and vegetables. Oh, and one more thing. Latinos, we can also vote.
This Puerto Rican has something to say about the island that I love.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Where my family is from, Puerto Rico is trash. We are Americans, Donald Trump. Americans. We voluntarily serve disproportionately high in the military while you have bone spurs. And we vote. Pennsylvania is home to almost 500,000 Puerto Ricans. North Carolina, 115,000. Georgia, 100,000. Arizona, 64,000. Wisconsin, 61,000. Michigan, 43,000. Nevada, 27,000. We vote Donald Trump. Trash. And by the way, Jennifer Lopez, Ricky Martin, Bad Bunny, Luis Fonsi, and Mark Anthony have over 345 million followers on Instagram. I think you only have 26 million, since you care so much about size. And we don't like what was said about Puerto Rico. And we know how to take the trash out, Donald Trump. Trash that has been collecting since 2016. And that's you, Donald Trump. And finally, my fellow Puerto Ricans, Trash Collection Day is November 5th, 2024. Don't forget it.
When I was leaving the hotel, there was a woman there, and she started talking to me about this rally. And I said to her, "Are you Puerto Rican?" And she said to me, "No, but today we are all Puerto Ricans."
Great.
And so I want to say, and he didn't just make jokes about Puerto Ricans.
No, he didn't.
He made jokes about blacks.
Yep.
You know, the whole trope about watermelons. He made jokes, a vile joke about Latinos that we can't even put on daytime TV.
Yep.
So today we are all in this together. And I'm going to say this particularly to my Latino community. If Trump asking for the death penalty for 5 young men of color, black and Latino, the exonerated 5 wasn't enough for you. If Trump getting investigated for refusing to rent to black people wasn't enough for you. If Trump promoting a racist trope against the first black president with the birtherism wasn't enough for you. If Trump calling Mexicans rapists and criminals and bad hombres wasn't enough for you. If Trump calling us vermin, invaders, people who poison the blood of this country wasn't enough for you. If Trump throwing paper towels at people in need after Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico wasn't enough for you. If Trump saying immigrants have made this country into the trash can of the world wasn't enough for you, then maybe, just maybe, this comedian, handpicked, chosen, vetted by the Trump campaign because he reflects what Trump has said his entire lifetime, maybe that will be enough for you. And on November 5th, I want you to vote for your heritage and your traditions and your identity. I want you to vote with dignity and self-respect. Latinos, comunidad, si ustedes tienen respeto por sí mismos, si tienen dignidad, defiendan esa dignidad y usen sus votos el 5 de noviembre para sacar a Donald Trump.
Yes.
This comedian, he talked 32 minutes into this rally. Donald Trump showed up 4 hours and 20 minutes later, 4 hours and 52 minutes into this rally. So he had over 4 hours to come out there and condemn these comments, to distance himself.
He did the same thing on January 6th.
He did not do it. By then, every Puerto Rican had a mask. I mean, it was like the bat signal.
It was the bat signal. It was the bat signal.
Yeah. I'm leaving the garden right now. That was a very extreme speech. Definitely not the kind of speech that tries to win over moderates, independents, swing voters in these final days. It was really more of like a CPAC crowd playing to the base. Trump is talking about bringing back a law from 1798, the Alien and Sedition Act, so that he can have the largest deportation in history. Imagery was really dark about migration and crime. He called November 5th Day of Liberation. The lineup before him was really extreme. I mean, some of these speakers were making racist comments, calling Puerto Rico a floating pile of garbage. They said that Kamala Harris had pimp handlers, wild comments about black people. It was just like all over the place. Everyone seemed to be offended. It was a very crazy experience. There's a lot of concern already about those comments that the comedian made. Puerto Ricans make up about 500,000 voters in Pennsylvania, and they become sort of Trump curious, and this is a voting bloc that they were hoping to win over, so I could see the GOP having to clean up that mess.
I don't know how this happened, but things actually just managed to go from bad to worse for Trump as the campaign continues dealing with the crushing fallout from yesterday's Madison Square Garden rally in New York. It turns out that the comic who called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage was also planning on referring to Kamala Harris as the C word, but that got flagged by the campaign. And so think about what that tells you. It shows you that they vetted the material, meaning they approved of calling Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. They decided that was okay. Look, Latinos, Donald Trump doesn't have an ounce of respect for you. He rose to power calling you rapists and drug dealers, and now he's giving the green light for Puerto Rico to be called trash on the literal biggest stage in the United States of America. Do not reward a guy who hates you by giving him exactly what he's looking for.
I know many people won't see this video because I don't have a lot of followers, and that's okay because I don't do TikTok for following. I literally do it just to have a good time. I am a Puerto Rican, and I saw the jokes that were made yesterday about our culture, our island, and other minorities, as the world likes to call us, minorities. Although this country is made up of mostly Hispanics and people from other countries, because America is North, Central, Latin, and South America. Let's not forget that. And the majority are Hispanic Latinos. I just watched a video of a woman who chose to come on and tell us to not get our panties in a bunch and to relax because it's a joke. I understand that jokes can be making fun of other people because I love comedy shows. But when I choose to go to a comedy show, I know that most likely races, people, whatever you are, will most likely get made fun of. And I understand that. But this wasn't a comedy show. This was a political rally. This is a place where you bring what you really want to highlight and what you can do for this country and these people, and you highlight that so that we will either know that we want to vote for you or know that we don't want to vote for you, regardless of the other party. This man chose to make fun of people, an island that brings so much money to this mainland country. You chose to put us down at a rally. This was not a comedy show. I don't want to get ugly and I don't want to do tit for tat, but I am amazed that you as a Puerto Rican are still choosing to support a man who does not care about you. I don't care about the policies that either party can bring to the table and what they can do. At this point, it is your character that speaks for you. It is how you speak of others. I typically do not let these things get me because it's social media. Social media is just a joke. It's a way to just entertain yourself. But this one hit hard. We are the most loving, forgiving, kind, welcoming people in the world. And for you to support somebody who would make fun of that, I hope you're open to being made fun of out in public, and don't sit there and say that was offensive or I'm hurt. Because if you're choosing to support somebody who does that, then don't go crying when this fun is being made of you personally, just you as a person. Good luck to all of you who choose that path. It's so sad. You all keep saying we have to come together, make America great again. I'd like to know when America was ever great. And you know what? You should change that. Why don't you make the United States great again? Because when you say America, you're incorporating a lot of people. And some of us are really embarrassed to even be a part of this country. Because you say America. Being from Puerto Rico, I am American. But this is embarrassing. That's all I have to say.
When I saw conservative comedian Kill Tony say at a Trump rally in Madison Square Garden today that Puerto Rico is a pile of trash in the middle of the ocean, as somebody who grew up in the state of Florida, the first thing that went through my mind was, are you fucking stupid? And yes, I understand that this is a comedian, and I understand that he's on stage to make jokes. He also made a joke about Black Americans carving watermelons during Halloween. The thing that really actually just baffles me, though, is that the Trump campaign did this having to know the fact that this would be cut up, this would be put on the internet, this could be potentially run in campaigns, and Florida is very much in play right now. And I don't know if anybody at the Trump campaign did any research before they allowed Kill Tony to go on that stage, but there are 1.2 million Puerto Ricans in the state of Florida right now. Not to mention the fact that Latinos make up 17% of the overall voting population in the state. Most people incorrectly assume that most Latino voters are in the southern part of the state, but that's actually not true. In the past 20 years, there has been an explosion of Latino voters in the central part of Florida, which over the course of the past few election cycles has been more Republican than Democrat. But you have counties like Marion, Polk, Pasco, Pinellas, all of these types of counties that are in the central part of the state from Tampa to Orlando and those surrounding counties, those are very much having high volumes of Latino voters over the course of the past 20 years. The only thing in my head that I could think of was the voters registration deadline for Florida passed on October 7th. So maybe they're just hedging their bets that this isn't going to drive a lot of people to actually register to vote, or they're hedging their bets that Latino voters don't turn out. But even then, the risk of just having somebody for laughs and to be able to entertain an audience in Madison Square Garden that could come at the expense of a large population of voters in the state of Florida, it just doesn't make sense. I understand that Latino voters, they are a little bit skewing towards Democrat, but there is a huge population of Latino Republican voters because they are conservative, because they come from Christian backgrounds who have traditionally voted for Republicans. And I think if this was to get in front of them, if the statement that Puerto Rico is a pile of trash in the middle of the ocean were to be able to seen by them at a Trump-Vance rally, I think that that could actually influence a couple thousand votes. And as we are aware, based off the past few election cycles, a couple thousand votes really, really matters right now.
Comedian Tony Hinchcliffe ignited outrage at a Trump rally when he referred to Puerto Rico as a floating island of garbage, which provoked backlash from both sides of the political spectrum. With just 8 days left until the general election, let's take a look at how this remark could impact election results, especially in key battleground states. According to a Pew Research Center analysis of the U.S. Census Bureau's American Community Survey, an estimated 5.8 million Puerto Ricans lived in the United States in 2021, with many residing in key battleground states. For example, in several key battleground states, Puerto Rican communities make up a significant demographic, particularly when compared to the narrow margins of victory in the 2020 election. Pennsylvania, for example, with the largest Puerto Rican population among these states at 472,213, had a winning margin of 80,000 votes in 2020, underscoring the potential influence of these voters. Nevada saw a much closer race decided by just over 33,000 votes with a Puerto Rican population of 27,000 residents. Arizona, where the margin was even tighter at over 10,000 votes, is home to 64,000 Puerto Ricans. In Michigan, with a winning margin of 154,000 votes, the Puerto Rican population stands around 43,000. Wisconsin's 2020 election was determined by only 20,000 votes, while the Puerto Rican population is 61,000. Georgia, decided by a slim margin of over 11,000 votes, has 100,000 Puerto Ricans residing within the state. Finally, in North Carolina, where the margin was decided by over 74,000 votes, the Puerto Rican community numbers 115,000. The concentration of Puerto Rican voters across these pivotal states may be a potential influence on the 2024 election outcomes. Let's take a look at voter data to see how they vote. According to scholars.org, Puerto Ricans exhibit diverse political views, with many identifying as moderate, some as liberal, and then some as conservative, some as very conservative, and some as very liberal. Regarding party affiliation, 60% identify as Democrats, while 40% identify as Republicans, with a significant portion of Republicans describing themselves as conservative or very conservative. Men tend to lean more towards the Republican Party, whereas Puerto Rican women are more likely to identify as Democrats or remain unaffiliated. Back to the incendiary comments. Trump's campaign did swiftly distance itself from the remarks, stating it did not represent Trump's views. Hinchcliffe also faced backlash for a joke which he made about Latinos, which the Harris campaign condemned as racist and classless. In defense of his humor, the comedian took to social media, prompting Donald Trump Jr. to share his post, which sparked even more criticism. These incidents occurred just days before the election, as Trump aimed to garner more support in traditionally Democratic New York, while Harris continues to campaign in other battleground states. Meanwhile, Puerto Rican artists like Bad Bunny and J-Lo voiced support for Kamala Harris, with Bad Bunny sharing a video where Harris outlined her policies for Puerto Rico. Harris emphasized the need for improved health, housing, and energy infrastructure on the island, contrasting her stance with past criticisms of Trump's handling of Puerto Rican issues after Hurricane Maria. Both Harris and Trump have worked to appeal to Puerto Ricans and other Latino voters, a group that has traditionally leaned Democrat, but in the recent years has shown some movement towards.
Thank you so much guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, it's a goodbye for now.